I used to think we were golden, you know. Not the flashy, over-the-top kind of golden, but the real deal, the kind that ages well, like vintage wine or a classic New York brownstone. Sarah and I, 8 years deep, 5 years married. She was my Empire State Building. Beautiful, smart, the brightest light in my city. Or so I swore. The night the whole damn thing crumbled started like any other Friday in the city. A friend's party, celebrating some Wall Street win. Place was buzzing, drinks flowing like the East River, music loud enough to shake the paintings. Sarah was in her element, working the room like a seasoned pro, while I hung back, Upper East Side wallflower, drink in hand, happy just watching her shine. As the night wore on, Sarah got louder, looser. Tipsy Sarah I knew, loved even. But this was different. Brooklyn Bridge different. Words slurred, yes, but the things she was saying, they had a sharp edge, like broken glass. Little jabs at first, wrapped in laughter, about my routine, my safe choices, my lack of spark. They stung, sure, but I waved them off. Drunk talk, right? People say crazy stuff when they're loaded. Oh, we were heading for the door, me trying to steer her straight, when it hit me. She laughed, a hard, bitter sound, and muttered, "I don't even know why I married you." The city noise faded, the party din went silent. I froze, hand on the cab door, the other gripping her arm, trying to keep her upright. "What did you say?" My voice, suddenly a stranger's, shaky, weak. "You heard me?" she slurred, each word a punch to the gut, clear enough to shatter me. "You're so beige. You don't excite me anymore. God, Mike, I've tried, but it's just not there." The cab ride home was a blur of yellow lights and her occasional sniffles, the cheap wine doing its emotional work. I felt like a robot, hands clamped on the wheel, knuckles white, her words echoing in my head, each replay hitting harder than the last. Back at our place, our cozy West Village apartment, I helped her to bed. She just collapsed, mumbled something incoherent, and was out cold in minutes. I stood there staring down at her sleeping form. This woman I thought I knew. The woman I'd built my whole damn life around. It wasn't just the not attracted anymore that ripped me open. It was the sheer contempt in her voice, the way she dismissed everything, every single thing I was, everything I'd done for us. My mind went into overdrive trying to find the cracks, the signs I'd missed. Had they been there all along? Was this some slow burn resentment finally exploding, or just the booze talking? Then, the final blow, the knockout punch. As I reached down to pull the duvet over her, she murmured, "I shouldn't have kissed him." Ice. My blood turned to solid ice. Realization slammed into me harder than any subway car. Not just unattracted, unfaithful. That was it. That was the moment I knew I was done. The betrayal, raw, brutal, too much. My love for Sarah, I thought it was unbreakable, like the bedrock of Manhattan itself. She'd shattered it with a few drunken words. I couldn't look at her, couldn't stomach the thought of waking up next to her, pretending everything was okay while she slept, stained with someone else's kiss. Quietly, methodically, I started packing, essentials only. Clothes, laptop, some cash. Didn't want to leave a digital trail. By the time the first rays of dawn snuck through the blinds, My decision was set in stone. Sarah stirred as I stood by the door, duffel bag in hand. For a split second, I hesitated, torn between wanting to scream, to confront her, and the overwhelming urge to just escape. Escape the city, escape her, escape everything. In the end, I just left. No words, no drama. The click of the apartment door closing behind me. That was the sound of one life ending and another one, terrifying and unknown, beginning. Driving away through the pre-dawn quiet of the West Village, a cocktail of emotions churning inside me. Anger, hurt, betrayal, but also, strangely, a cold resolve. Sarah would wake up, find me gone, and she'd know why. This was just the start of her facing the music for breaking my heart. The streetlights flickered overhead as I navigated the empty city streets, knuckles white on the steering wheel. Didn't know where I was going, not really. Just knew I couldn't stop until I was far enough away that she couldn't find me. She didn't deserve closure, didn't deserve the satisfaction of begging for forgiveness, not after what she'd done. First thing I did was find a cheap motel out by JFK, the kind with peeling wallpaper and a faint smell of stale cigarettes. Perfect, unremarkable, anonymous. Sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the worn carpet, mind racing. What next? How to vanish completely? Laptop out, connected to the motel's dial-up speed Wi-Fi, and started dismantling the life I'd built with Sarah. Shared bank accounts, first to go. Transferred my half of the savings to a new account I'd opened months ago, some crazy idea about starting a side hustle. Precautionary move, I'd called it then. Sarah had laughed. Why are you always planning for disasters that'll never happen? Guess I'd unknowingly planned for this one. Next, resignation email to my boss. Short, professional, personal reasons, immediate departure. My job, corporate drone in Midtown, wasn't just a paycheck. It was part of my identity, but I couldn't risk Sarah using it to track me. By dawn, I'd wiped myself clean from our shared life. The apartment lease, still in both our names, hers to deal with. Credit cards, utilities, streaming services. She could have it all. Only thing I left behind was a note. Not for her benefit, for mine. Writing it gave me a twisted sense of finality, a chance to put the rage into words without her interrupting, twisting them. Short note, scribbled on motel stationery. Sarah, I heard you. Can't unhear it. You took something from me I can't get back. Not just trust, but the whole damn thing. I'm gone. Don't look for me. Folded it neat, left it on the kitchen counter where she was sure to find it. Then walked out, locked the door behind me for the last time. The next day's a blur of highway miles. Drove south, then west, stopping only for gas station coffee and greasy diner food. Dumped my old phone, bought a burner, prepaid, basic as hell, no tracking, no frills. Found another motel, this one slightly less depressing, somewhere in Pennsylvania, and started looking for a new place to land. Settled on Pittsburgh. Mid-sized city, a few hours out. Big enough to disappear in, small enough to feel manageable. Found a studio apartment. Clean, cheap, paid 3 months up front. Started picking up the pieces of a new life. Every now and then, Sarah would flicker into my thoughts, waking up to an empty apartment, finding the note, the slow burn realization of what she'd done. Part of me, the twisted, vengeful part, wanted to call, hear her reaction, but I resisted. Didn't want to give her that, the satisfaction of knowing I still cared enough to listen. Instead, I focused on building a wall, brick by brick, between my old life and this new one. Deleted social media, changed email, ignored calls from unknown numbers, assuming it was Sarah or some friend she'd sicked on me. Each unanswered ring, a small victory, a reminder that I was finally in control, finally free. Starting over wasn't easy. Missed my friends, my routine, even the damn bodega coffee on the corner. But every time the pull back to New York got too strong, I'd replay her words in my head. Not attracted to you anymore. The bitterness, the casual cruelty, then the kiss, the betrayal. Couldn't ignore it, even if I wanted to. She hadn't just hurt me. She'd taken something sacred, something real, and trashed it. By the end of the first week, resolve hardened into something colder, sharper. This wasn't just about escaping her. It was about making damn sure she felt the weight of what she'd done. She deserved to know what it felt like to lose everything. To wake up one day and realize the person you thought was forever was just gone. I wasn't just disappearing. I was going to make sure she felt the consequences in ways she couldn't ignore. Sitting in my empty apartment, staring at the bare walls, a plan started to form, dark and twisted. Leaving wasn't enough. She needed to understand, to suffer, to feel this gaping hole in her life, the way I was feeling it now. Sarah woke up with a jackhammer in her skull, and a silence so thick it was suffocating. Normally, Saturday mornings, Mike would be in the kitchen, coffee brewing, scrolling through sports scores, but the apartment was dead quiet, the kind of quiet that screamed wrongness, like something vital was missing. Groaned, rolled over, squinted at the clock. 10:47 a.m. Late, even for a hungover Saturday. Swung her legs out of bed, shuffled into the hallway, calling his name. "Mike? Mike, you there?" Silence answered. Unease started as a tiny seed in her chest, growing with each empty room she passed. Living room, empty. Bedroom, just her rumpled sheets. Kitchen, spotless, no coffee smell, no dishes in the sink. Then she saw it, the note, folded neat on the counter. Her name scrawled across the top, Mike's handwriting. Familiar, but different. Sharper, angrier. Unfolded it, eyes scanning the short note. Didn't register at first. Read it again, then a third time. Breath catching in her throat. "Sarah, I heard you. Can't unhear it. You took something from me I can't get back. Not just trust, but the whole damn thing. I'm gone. Don't look for me." Knees buckled, sank into a kitchen chair, the note trembling in her hands. Night before, fragments flashing back. Party, drinks, fight, her words. God, what had she said? Then it came back, not all of it, hazy around the edges, but enough. Laughing, mocking him, saying things she hadn't meant, or maybe she had, but not like that. And the kiss. Stupid, drunken moment with some guy from work, barely knew his last name. Stomach churned, shame and panic washing over her in waves. Grabbed her phone, fingers shaking, dialed Mike's number. Straight to voicemail. Tried again. No answer. Switched to text, hammering out messages, rapid fire. Mike, please call me. Where are you? I'm so sorry. Please come home. Each one unanswered. By the time she gave up, tears were streaming down her face, hot and useless. The next few days, a living nightmare. First day, convinced herself he was just cooling off, needing space. But hours stretched into days, and reality started to sink in like a lead weight. He wasn't coming back. Called everyone she could think of, their friends, his co-workers, even his parents in Jersey. No one knew where he was, or if they did, they weren't talking. Cops were useless. He's an adult, the officer said, tone bored. Doesn't sound like he's missing, just doesn't want to be found. Threw herself into searching, combing through their shared online accounts, looking for clues. But Mike had been thorough, surgical, bank accounts drained, credit cards canceled, even his email deactivated, like he'd vanished into the goddamn subway system. Her life started to unravel, threads pulling loose, faster than she could keep up. Without Mike's quiet, steady presence, the financial strain hit hard. Never realized how much of their life's stability had rested on his shoulders. Mortgage, utilities, groceries. He'd always handled it, quietly, no complaints. Now, faced with managing it all herself, overwhelmed, drowning. Social life, once vibrant, brunches in Soho, late-night cocktails in the village, started to shrink, wither. Word of her drunken meltdown at the party had spread. Whispered accusations, sideways glances, infidelity, drunken confessions, overheard by people she thought were friends. Co-workers who'd laughed at her jokes, admired her confidence, now avoided her in the office kitchen. Smiles brittle, conversations clipped. At work, tried to keep it together. Midtown professional facade. But stress and guilt were eating her alive. Missed deadlines, snapped at colleagues, spent more time staring blankly at her computer screen than actually working. Boss called her in, afternoon meeting, tone carefully neutral. Everything okay, Sarah? You haven't been yourself lately. Fine, she lied, forcing a smile, felt like cracking porcelain. Just personal stuff. Well, if you need time off. He trailed off, but the subtext was a Times Square billboard. She was on thin ice. Nights. The apartment felt huge, echoing, empty. Wandered from room to room, searching for some trace of him, an old T-shirt, a forgotten book, anything that might make her feel closer to the man she'd so carelessly thrown away. But he'd taken everything that mattered. All that remained were ghosts, memories, each one twisting the knife deeper. Started drinking more, drowning out the guilt, the loneliness. But the wine, the whiskey, it only amplified the pain, magnified her mistakes, filled her head with relentless questions. Why hadn't she stopped herself? Why had she thrown away a man who'd loved her so completely, so unconditionally, weight of regret suffocating? Wanted to fix it, make it right, but didn't even know where to begin. He'd left her with nothing, not just physically, emotionally. Always thought of him as steady, dependable, unbreakable, never considered what might happen if she pushed too far. Now she knew. Days turned into weeks, one thought consuming her, a relentless loop in her brain. She'd lost him, and she had no one to blame but herself. Starting over wasn't easy, but it gave me a strange kind of focus, a twisted purpose. Days were simple. Wake up, run along the river, explore my new city, Pittsburgh. Found a part-time job at a hardware store, low stress, kept me busy, paid the bills. For the first time in years, I wasn't living for anyone but myself. But no matter how far I ran, how many miles I put between myself and New York, the memory of Sarah's betrayal clung to me like a shadow. Couldn't forget her words, the disdain in her voice, the way she'd so casually discarded everything we'd built. Every time I thought of her, anger simmered beneath the surface, threatening to boil over. Didn't just want to disappear from her life, I wanted her to feel what I'd felt. Broken, humiliated, utterly alone. First step in my twisted plan. Information gathering. Knew Sarah well enough to predict her moves. Not the type to let go easily. Figured she'd try to track me down. Created a fake social media account. Generic name, profile picture, blended into the digital noise of her online world. She hadn't locked down her profiles, still broadcasting her life to anyone who cared to look. Easy to see her posts, piece together the wreckage of her life. Didn't take long to confirm my suspicions. Posts sparser, more erratic. Each one a desperate signal flare. Picture of an empty coffee mug. Caption, "Mornings aren't the same without you." Late night selfie, puffy eyes, wine glass in hand, vague, sorrowful message. She was unraveling, and it was just the opening act. From a distance, I started making small, calculated moves, little nudges to make her life just a little bit harder. Knew where she worked. Midtown ad agency, cutthroat world. Created an anonymous email account. Sent a carefully worded message to her boss. Hinted at her drunken behavior at the party, the unprofessionalism. Didn't spell it out. Didn't want to come across as a bitter ex. Just planted enough seeds of doubt, enough to make them question her. Worked like a charm. Weeks later saw a post, work stress at an all-time high, feeling like I can't catch a break. Smiled grimly, imagining the whispers in the office, the subtle shift in how her colleagues treated her, the cold shoulders, the tight smiles. Next, her social circle. Remembered the co-worker she'd kissed, the one who'd been a little too handsy at the party. Wall Street type. Slicked back hair, expensive suit. Didn't take long to find him online. Quick message to his wife. Yes, married of course. Was all it took to ignite chaos in his perfect Upper East Side life. Sarah wasn't mentioned by name, but I knew the fallout would reach her, ripple effect of gossip and whispers. Sure enough, her posts got more frantic, smiles more forced. Group photo with coworkers at happy hour, captioned, "Trying to stay positive." But I could see the tension in her face, the cracks forming in the carefully constructed persona she tried so hard to maintain. Despite the twisted satisfaction, watching her life crumble from afar, moments of doubt crept in, like shadows in a dark alley. Was I going too far? Was this justice, or just petty revenge disguised as something noble? Then I'd remember that night. The pain, the humiliation, the betrayal, and my resolve would harden again, like concrete setting. Sarah had taken everything from me. She deserved to feel the same emptiness, the same gut-wrenching loss. One evening, Email from a mutual friend, David. Haven't spoken to anyone from my old life since I'd left. Seeing his name in my inbox, a jolt. Message brief. Mike, Sarah's been asking around about you. She's not doing well. Don't know what happened between you two, but thought you should know. David. Stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me wanted to reply, to tell him everything, spill the whole messy story. But knew it wouldn't help. Explaining my side wouldn't erase what she'd done, wouldn't make the pain go away. Instead, I doubled down. Created more fake accounts, sent anonymous messages to Sarah, little reminders of her mistakes, twisting the knife. Do you regret it? One message read. Another simply, you don't deserve forgiveness. She started posting less, her once curated online presence crumbling into silence. When she did post, the sadness in her eyes was unmistakable, even through the filtered photos. She was struggling, drowning, and I knew I was the undertow. Still, felt like something was missing. Watching her life fall apart from a distance wasn't enough. I wanted her to know it was me behind the unraveling, to face the consequences head-on. But that meant breaking my silence, confronting her in a way I wasn't sure I was ready for, sitting in my small apartment, surrounded by the quiet normalcy of my new life. Realized there was only one way to truly close this chapter. Sarah had to know what she'd done to me, and I had to see her reaction, face to face. Time for hiding was over. Time for reckoning. Weeks bled into months, and despite my calculated moves to dismantle Sarah's life, felt no real closure. Revenge, that had seemed so sweet in theory, now tasted like ash in my mouth. Wanted her to understand the depth of the pain she'd caused, not just through the fallout of her actions, but by facing it directly. Time for her to hear my voice again, not for reconciliation, but for the reckoning she deserved. One evening, wrote her an email. Not long, just enough to let her know I wasn't lost, wasn't forgotten, was watching her unravel. Sarah, I see you've been trying to find me. Stop. I'm not coming back. I've moved on, and I don't owe you anything. But I want you to know this. Every tear you've cried, every piece of your life that's fallen apart, that's just a fraction of what you deserve. You betrayed me, and now you're paying the price. You don't get to ask for forgiveness. You made your choice and I made mine. Goodbye forever. Hesitated before hitting send. Part of me wondered if this would only reignite the pain for both of us. But the anger pushed aside the doubt. Clicked send, let the words fly into her inbox. Response came quicker than expected. Less than an hour later. Phone buzzed. Notification from the burner email account. Mike, please, just talk to me. I'll do anything. I don't know what's worse, what I did to you, or what I've done to myself because of it. I've lost everything, and I know I deserve it, but I need to say I'm sorry. Please, let me say it. Her words, a small earthquake, subtle but destabilizing, could sense her desperation, her regret. But it didn't soften me, if anything, reignited the flame of anger. Instead of responding, pushed her further, sent another anonymous message pretending to be someone who'd overheard whispers at her office. Sarah, word gets around. Did you really think no one would find out? People know what you did. You can't hide from it forever. Message vague, kept her guessing. but specific enough to plant seeds of paranoia. Imagined her reading it, heart-pounding, wondering how much the sender knew. Did they know about the affair? About her drunken confession? Would they tell others? Thought brought a grim smile to my face. Days later, another email. Longer, almost frantic. Mike, if you're reading this, I need you to know how sorry I am. Don't expect you to forgive me. Wouldn't blame you if you hated me forever. I hate myself for what I did. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I threw it all away. Don't know if you'll ever see this, or if it even matters, but I loved you. I still love you. Losing you has been the hardest thing I've ever gone through, and I don't know how to fix the damage I've caused. Please, if there's any part of you that still cares, just let me say this to your face. I need to see you, to know if there's even a shred of hope left for us. Her words hit me in a way I hadn't expected. Anger I'd clung to for months suddenly felt heavier, harder to carry. Was this what I'd wanted all along? For her to feel broken, desperate, alone? Or had I wanted her to understand the depth of the love she'd betrayed? Decided it was time to confront her directly, not to forgive, but to make her understand what she'd lost. Using the burner email, sent her a location, a time. Quiet coffee shop in the East Village, far from our old haunts. If you want to say something, come here tomorrow at 3 p.m. I'll give you 5 minutes. Next day, arrived early. Coffee shop half empty, patrons quietly sipping lattes, tapping on laptops. Chose a corner table, clear view of the entrance, waited. Sarah arrived on the dot, face pale, drawn, eyes scanning the room nervously. When she spotted me, expression crumpled, relief mixed with heartbreak. "Mike," she breathed, crossing the room, sitting down across from me, said nothing. Let the silence stretch, thick and heavy. She fidgeted with her hands, lips trembling, searching for words. I don't even know where to start," she stammered. "I'm so sorry, for everything. For the things I said, for what I did. You didn't deserve any of it." Leaned back, folded my arms. "You're right, I didn't." She flinched, tears welling. "I was stupid, selfish. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know. I thought I wanted more, something different. But I was wrong. I lost the best thing I ever had, and I can't fix it." Words hung in the air, heavy with regret. For a moment, tiniest flicker of pity, but wasn't enough to erase the damage she'd done. "Sarah," I said finally, voice steady, cold. "Do you know what it feels like to hear the person you love say they don't want you anymore? To find out they betrayed you in the worst way possible, because that's what you did to me." "I know," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I know, and I'll regret it every day for the rest of my life." "Good," I said, standing up. "You should." Without another word, walked out, leaving her sitting there, broken, alone, just like she'd left me. Walking out of the coffee shop, felt an overwhelming sense of finality. Confrontation I dreaded, and in some twisted way craved, was over. Sarah's tears, broken voice, desperate apologies, all laid bare, but hadn't given me the satisfaction I'd expected. Instead, felt a hollow ache where anger had once been. For months, I'd lived for this moment, believing it would be the ultimate revenge. But as I turned the corner, left Sarah behind for good, realized something profound. I wasn't free. Not yet. Next few days, tried to make sense of my emotions. Anger had fueled me for so long, letting it go felt almost impossible. Built my new life on a foundation of resentment, and now that foundation was crumbling. Threw myself into work, longer runs along the river, hours in the quiet solitude of my apartment. But no matter how hard I tried, couldn't shake the echoes of Sarah's words at the coffee shop. I'll regret it every day for the rest of my life. Regret, heavy word, carried its own kind of suffering. Sarah wasn't the only one carrying it. I was too. One night, sleepless, sat down, started writing in a journal, picked up at a thrift store, poured out everything: betrayal, heartbreak, rage, emptiness that followed. Writing it down, like lifting a weight, slow release of the poison I'd been carrying. When I finished, stared at the pages for a long time. Didn't know if it was forgiveness I was seeking, or just a way to move on, but knew I couldn't live like this anymore. My life couldn't revolve around Sarah. What she'd done to me had to be about me, my healing, my future, my own damn happiness. Sarah, meanwhile, facing her own reckoning, didn't need to be in her life to know she was struggling. Word trickled back through mutual acquaintances. Taken leave of absence from work, rarely seen outside her apartment. Whatever image of perfection she'd tried to maintain, now a distant memory. Part of me wanted to reach out, tell her I understood her pain, wished her well, but knew better. That chapter closed. Reopening it, only more complications, more pain. Weeks turned into months. Started rebuilding my life with a new sense of purpose. Enrolled in evening classes, woodworking, something I'd always wanted to do, never had time for. Joined a local hiking group, made new friends who knew nothing of my past. Slowly, pieces of my life started to fall into place. One day, hiking a trail in the mountains outside Pittsburgh, paused to take in the view. Sun setting, casting a warm orange glow over the landscape. First time in what felt like forever, felt at peace. Sarah's betrayal, still a scar, but no longer defined me. I'd survived, and I was stronger for it. As for Sarah, could only guess what her life had become. Imagined she was still picking up pieces, trying to make sense of the wreckage she'd created. Whether she found redemption or remained trapped in regret, never know. And that was okay. Life doesn't always tie itself up neatly. People hurt each other, make mistakes, carry their scars in different ways. What I'd learned, healing doesn't come from revenge or even closure. Comes from letting go. Quiet spring morning, burned the journal, filled with my pain. Watched flames consume pages, smoke rising into the sky, like a final goodbye. When last ember died out, felt lighter than I had in years. Wasn't the same man I'd been when I left Sarah, and grateful for that. Found a new version of myself, stronger, wiser, unshackled from the past. Walking away from the ashes, thought of the words I'd carry with me, rest of my life. You can't control what others do to you, but you can control how you respond. And with that, I moved forward, leaving both the pain and the revenge behind.